All right, I'll now call the meeting to order, 7:38. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gail Schreiber.
Here.
Assessor Jan Churchwell.
Here.
Trustee Danielle Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Stephen Mulder. Trustee L.A. Robbins.
Here.
Trustee Kate Cassell McNally.
Here.
Administrator Larisha Hopkins.
Here.
Madam Supervisor, we have a quorum for business.
Wonderful. We will now join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thanks for hanging in there while we deal with some technology, but hopefully we will be able to hear the recording, and that's what's important for our minutes. And James is going to be late, so we will talk about that. I saw that. So the biggest things to report were that the township, as a member of the Intergovernmental Committee of Winnetka, was honored at the Family Service Center lunch 2 weeks ago. It was a lovely event at the Valley Low Club. Being able to celebrate coming together between the township, the village, both of the school districts, the library, and the high school, especially related to our work on mental health. And related to that, we had our most recent intergovernmental committee meeting at which the consultants who had been engaged, and which I did find out were volunteer, so I do appreciate their work, presented the results of the various envisioning sessions as to how we can improve mental health services in the township. The kind of biggest takeaway was that people wanted more knowledge of what's available. So obviously I raised my hand and said, hey, we have it on our website, but it can't be approved. And I think that we do need to take effort to make sure it is as user-friendly as possible. The other concern is obviously our resource directory is solely those resources that are either governmental or we fund. That's by policy, right? We can't, our policy is to not send people to a non-vetted endeavor or private. And the question is should that be a broader resource? Now, of course, there are other nonprofits that do aggregate such resources, including a group called My State of Mind, which is run by Chance the Rapper, who does mental health services, kind of locating in Chicago specifically for youth. And then there is, I believe it's called 211, and 211 or 31, it's gotta be 211. But essentially, and we have it linked on our website and already had, but it is a county-wide program for all resources available. And so like if you were to search right now and you searched that database for a food pink, we would come up, for instance, right? And which took me some effort in itself. But it is meant to be the one-stop shop for social services in the area. And it was concerning that no one else knew it existed. That just, I was trying not to take that personally and instead say, how can we improve? So that's where we're gonna be. I've already talked to Melanie about making the next courier a mental health centric courier to really emphasize what programs we do have. Because that's really, if we can fund all these programs we want, but people don't know about them, it doesn't help. So that's the report on mental health. And there will likely, in addition to that kind of outcome out of that committee, there was the consultants are going to provide a proposal for shared communications related to mental health, destigmatization, and access that we can have shared across the board.
I'm looking on the website's agency resources, mental health services page. I wonder if it might be worth putting, if there's a way to do it, over where it says one of 6 listings, just
like a note indicating that, these are, kind of sources that, we fund
Good
and
point.
or
Like a little
whatever.
asterisk.
But, you may, here are the, chances and the 2-on-1
Mhm.
that, may also provide additional kind of, if that's something that we're comfortable with doing. Just so that people don't come and say like, oh, that's 6 for all of the township. It's like, well, there's actually more, but I think that if we kind of give ourselves that note and indicate that, then it might be helpful.
So if you go to the landing page for resource directory, right? So before you hit the individual sections, I do have the 2-on-1 metro there.
Is this an all of resource directory?
So yeah,
Okay.
but we can add additional
Right.
resources there.
Yeah.
Like for instance, NAMI itself has its own resource directory. So we fund NAMI, and then NAMI has
Right.
created a resource directory. So yes, I would be.
I'm just looking
that
if
makes
if somebody goes to agency resources and then mental health services.
And my concern also with mental health services is the division between mental health services and crisis resources. I never understood the difference. So I do feel like those should be the same section, because people, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, yes. And even when I'm sharing the resource, I oftentimes get confused as to which one I should share for a particular family, right? She refers beyond our funded, to be honest. So if it's a good fit, so for instance, we do not fund connections for the homeless. Someone comes in and they're homeless, that's where they're going, right? Or journeys. So there are times where we will step out of these agencies, but yeah, so it's all about what's the best fit for the client, right? And mental health, yes. Yep. Any questions about the supervisor's report? Wonderful. All right, we're now on line. Oh, we're going to entertain a motion to table the approval of the minutes from October 10th. They are complete, but we were not able to get them to you all for review. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. The next meeting. Clerk's report, Mr. Clerk.
So I am thrilled to say I had a chance to go to tour. So actually, great feeling for me that I talk about personal moments, but it was great. Like this sweatshirt, I'm not sure if the color match, orange and red, but it was given to me by a fellow clerk who said she lost a lot of weight and she knew about my situation. She came and gave it, so everyone gave me, and it was just very sweet. And that was motivating to me. I thought, well, when I lose weight someday, I can give it to some other person. But the best thing about the conference is they have really ramped up things. I mean, they've made an effort every year to do good things. But every session I went to was worthwhile. It kind of made me think of what Gail and I said last month at the Metropolitan Township. It's like the expectations. Every meeting you go to ought to be something you're going to walk out saying, it wasn't just fun, it was worthwhile. And man, the sessions were fantastic. And for clerks, kind of a nutty bunch anyway. It was all about the stuff that we care about. I mean, questions. I mean, here's some program, but off the top of my head, I'm just saying it was nice for me to go back to back. Even today we had our meeting. It was nice. So I'm highly encouraging next year. I think Larisha would be perfect if you could make it. You would love it, and you feel connected to all these other townships, and then the diversity of what they do really comes across so clearly. So many townships have cemetery boards. I thought, oh boy, I'm missing out not being the clerk of the cemetery. But and highway commissioner on all these other issues and problems that we could have that we do not have. It just makes me joyful returning here and seeing us. Thank you. Absolutely.
Well, a cemetery automatically becomes the purview of a township if a religious organization running a cemetery folds. So
we could get one. Yeah.
we hope not. But yes, you would appreciate. I was just at the Winnetka meeting before this, the Winnetka Village meeting, and there was a little discussion of FOIA via public comments. You would have loved it. Anyway. All right. Financial report. Let me just check if we're gonna I'm going to add a motion to amend the agenda to go to verify. We're gonna let's see. We're gonna go to our assessor's report. So is there such a motion to amend the agenda to move to? Okay, thank you. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Assessor's report. Jan.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I sent it out to everybody a while ago. So just to summarize, we're finished with appeals now. Excuse me, to the Board of Review, which means we are officially finished with appeals, both our appeal sessions for assessment year, calendar year and assessment year 2023. Tax bills have come out. They've been available online for about a month, and the hard copies are now out. And since you're all there one way and another, I guess nobody stroked out after getting their bill, so that's a good thing. The filing date or the payment date is December 1st, and despite all the assurances that were received that if you had your exemptions in place in 2021, you didn't have to file again in 2022. Exemptions fell off of people's bills, and oh, surprise. And so we have been, handling calls from people who are not only distressed about the size of their bill, but the fact that, that the little bits that they got back as gifts from the county went away and they have to do it again. And of course, the process has changed yet again. I don't know how long it will take for all of the updates to the assessor's system to get finished. There is a new C of E form, certificate of error form available online, which is really, it's a very comprehensive form. It's so comprehensive that I think some people take one look at it and go help. But it's not really that hard to follow. So we're doing some of that too now. We have excuse me, we had the Board of Review here, that is there in the office on October 24th for what was a very successful outreach event. It was hybrid, which I think is an excellent way to be able to do events like that, especially in a space with limits on it. I mean, it's not the auditorium theater or something. I'm sorry. And aside from that, we are now business as usual, and going forward toward the end of 2023, God knows. So that's really, as I said, things are in my report. So there it is. Oh, and the report also includes the third quarter statistics for July, August, and September. Okay.
I think that all the exceptions just automatically were removed and people have to reapply.
I can't hear.
Did all exemptions fall off, or just the ones that we thought were supposed to be automatic did not actually become automatic?
Right. Some people, if people lost one exemption, they lost any they had, but not everybody lost them. Plenty of them were still there. It's just that everyone was told, don't worry about it, you don't have to apply again. And that naturally turned out, I mean, you can't tell in advance whether you're one of the people who should have applied again because your exemption was going to disappear. So it's really sort of a catch-22, but people get very frustrated when they are told, that something is going to be done in a certain way. And so they proceed on that basis. And then that turns out not to follow for them. And it's most understandable. An awful lot of what we do is soothe people who are distressed.
Is there a reason that the exemptions fell off for some people?
He wants to know if there's a reason why some of the exemptions fell off.
We're never told if there is a reason, except that it was never anything the assessor's office did. And of course, it's always something the assessor's office did because they're the only ones who have them. So whether it's because they didn't get keyed in or because there was some kind of internal transfer to the data that was going over to the treasurer's office that did not happen, we do not know, and we never know. Did some trustees lose their exemptions? Is that why
Oh,
this
sorry.
is being asked?
Trustee Moser would like to know if there's a way to find out if you lost your exemption. Isn't it on?
Oh, it's on the yellow tax bill. The lower left-hand corner is a little portion that's titled Tax Calculator. That has all of the data in it, your assessed value, it's got the equalizer, it's got your tax rate. And then so it has then what the total of your tax bill is, and then your exemptions and the senior freeze, if you have that, should appear right underneath what your total tax liability is. They are deducted from your tax bill. They are not put over, they do not alter your assessment. They are reductions of the tax bill. And so then at the bottom of the little tax calculator portion is the amount owed, which of course is repeated at the top of the tax bill. And then it's on the coupon if you're mailing it in.
How people is trust in government or in big corporate America, that they take away something, most people won't even know it. And they'll be without a benefit that they had, and how many thousands of people won't know that they lost their.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you, Jan. And the event here was great. It was extremely well attended and well organized. So we thank Commissioner Steele's office as well.
Jan, may I just ask a quick question regarding the Q3 statistics? It looks like Kenilworth has unreported building permits from at least July through now. Is that typical? Does Kenilworth just not report this, or is this an anomaly?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
So it looks like from your report that Kenilworth has substantial unreported building permits. Is that an anomaly, or is that a pattern?
That's pretty common, just because they're small, and I believe they may have a new person there doing the permits. And so there aren't that many from them anyway. So that, yeah, it's pretty common that they are not around for a while. And who knows, they may have had some internal difficulties, with computers themselves or something, and just couldn't get to it. I don't know. Nobody ever tells us why.
Was there a way to?
Do you want me to call?
Right.
Oh, sure. We can call them and ask them what's going on.
Because my understanding is that, when we lose these building permits, right, we lose sight of which houses are getting major improvements, and then we can end up with an issue like we had a few years ago with that one family.
Well, what the problem with that is, that is with that particular thing, that is in the transmission process. All the villages, it's one of the, I think, one of the more peculiar aspects of the county processes, most of which I think are pretty peculiar. But all of the villages are supposed to report all of their permits directly to the county. They are also supposed to report them directly to us. We are supposed to report them directly to the county. The problem on our end is we can, let's say that Len processes 50 permits, and he tends to save them and batch them because he prefers root canals. So he sends off 50 permits, and we can say, yes, on November 14th, we processed 50 permits. Here's our list. The county never returns to us, yes, we got 50 permits. Now they're supposed to. In 2018, it worked, I believe, for 2 weeks. It hasn't worked since then, again. And that's what happened with that house, was we had sent the permits, that is, they were in our records as having been transmitted, 10 to 15 years ago or whatever, in 2006, when they were applied for. The county had no record of them. And they either don't get them, they don't log them. I don't know where their breakdown is, or where this is in their on their list of what priorities are. I mean, I know they keep working on it, but it doesn't seem to do any good. the one thing that they have been able to pick up on is that if they see in a sale, for instance, that a sale went to an LLC, they will make a note of that so that they can then check later, because they assume it's going to mean there will be a new house on that property. But that's the only thing that I know of so far that they've done. Although, as I say, I know they are trying to do better, but I really don't know what the computer difficulties is with Tyler on their end.
Oh, it's an electronic transfer. You send the lists and okay. And they use
Yeah.
Tyler? Right.
No, we don't use Tyler. We use our own system. What the county is doing is converting from whatever their ancient mainframe was to Tyler. And so, and I don't know what, as I said, I don't know what their priorities are in terms of what section has to get done next and what section has to get done right. Clearly, after 5 years, permits has not been one of them.
Those of us who have had to use Tyler for court filings, I can tell you that that's ridiculous.
Yeah, the other counties that people I've talked to in other counties have everybody seems to have their different problems with how Tyler functions for them.
All right. Thank you, Jan. Anybody else have questions? Seeing none, we are back in line for our discussion of our financial report with Mr. Howard. So I will go ahead and make him the host.
Great. Can everybody hear me okay? Right, let's open this up and then we can walk through the 8 months ended October 31. Start as always, just to kind of go through some revenue highlights again. Property taxes pretty much unchanged. The bills went out, I know Jan mentioned, so we should start to see that money trickle in, hopefully through the release of escrows at the end of the month into December. Again, that's better than last year, but still behind the typical August installment that we should be receiving the money in. 1.8 million, budgeted 3.4, so we're at 53% there. Replacement tax in at 92% and about 92,000 collected. Interest, you can see that's going to beat the budget. We know we've made good moves in terms of our investments, about 38,000 collected there. So that's 2 times the budget already. Passport fees also would be about 26,000. The budget was 12. All in about 1.9 million in terms of revenue. 3.5 is the budget. So we're at 55% and just awaiting that second installment in terms of tax monies. In terms of expenditures, again, we're at 67% of the way through the fiscal year. You can see we look very good. Agency programs in at 66%, childcare 76%, so that's skewed up just a little bit higher based on timing. Everything else there in the green. Until we come to building town hall expenses, those are up slightly at 82%. And then our pantry expenditures are over what we had budgeted, but that's also based on need. So again, all in here, we're at about 2.1 million, 3.6 million is the budget, so we're at 59%. And again, GA writing just a little bit higher than where we are in the year at 71%. Again, 67% of the year gone by. We know we've planned for a reduction in the GA fund balance, and again, you can see that happening. We will see some more tax money come in, obviously, to offset some of that. A deficit right now, 183,000, but when the tax monies come in, that script will be flipped. 1.5 million to start. We were about 1.4 million in ending fund balance. Again, good reserve levels at 64%. And remember, we still have one additional tax installment to go. In terms of the distribution, tax is 92%.
There's a question. Yes.
Yes.
So the childcare is not over. It's just the only one that's over is pantry, right? So we will at the end do clean that up. We are now using Angel Fund, so we have gone to that point of the year. Yep. No, at the end, we're no longer charging pantry items to this budget. We are charging it to Angel Fund. Yeah. The Angel Fund is meant for the pantry and financial assistance, right? So you shouldn't see that go too much further up. James?
Okay, yeah, taxes in 92%, replacement tax 5, interest 2, passports a little over 1, other 0.1. And on the expenditure side, agency programs 48%, childcare 6, projects 2, contractual services 5, assessor 3, buildings and town hall about 5%, financial assistance 9.5, pantry 5, personnel 13, elected officials 1. So again, we're just waiting on tax monies, and you're going to see revenues pop over expenditures. If not this month, then in December.
If I could
Again.
pause you there, there was a question from Trustee
Yep.
Moser. Where are you looking? No, pantry will stay in this budget. It'll actually, well, first of all, we're always looking for ways to make us more efficient in the pantry. And hopefully that subcommittee of the decennial will have some great ideas. So that's step one, is to limit expenditures unnecessarily. But it's always been that the Angel Fund was meant to be the supplement.
So when we're over
Yeah.
like you said,
Oh, I mean, like we're currently, it's coming out, like we're paying for additional funds from there. Exactly. Exactly. Right. Yes, because we can use general assistance, and we will continue to do so until we're gotten it general assistance into a place that makes more sense. Right. Sorry, there was one other thing I was going to say about that. It's gone. So hopefully it'll come back. All right, James.
Great. So I'm not going to go through all the detail, but just to take you to kind of our investments, again, 1.5 million across all accounts. Again, you can see 2.5% and 3.5% in our BMO accounts, and then our various, which is our Schwab and Sorafel-Duno managed accounts. Those are getting 4% and 5%. So again, good interest. You see, we've doubled our budget. So again, good returns in terms of the overall portfolio right now.
And I will just point out that you will now see on page 7 that we gave out our second agency checks. We had an event here for the agencies, very well attended. The agencies had an opportunity to network and also to vote on their favorite season per Steve, fall 1. Important update. Okay.
Other than that,
we are not giving them any checks because they do not exist. Yes. In contrast, the warming house is now a project of Haven and therefore is receiving their money. So we kind of had to flip the script right there.
Yeah, that's the only other thing I was going to point out. You're going to see the increase in terms of the payables, of the transaction detail, and again, a lot of that attributed to those agency payouts.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the total there about 645,000 from meeting to meeting. So again, any other questions from the board?
Yeah, so if you look, Kate, at line 5016 on page 7 of 11, you'll see that we did not give them their second check.
That's why I was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Any other questions for James?
And then I also have a levy presentation for tonight to make a determination on the levy.
If we could just do our verification of claims first, since we are looking at them. Trustee Moser. Is there any is there a second? Is there any discussion? You can see most of them are agency checks. And a few more building expenses, then we'll move to what to discuss. All right, seeing no more discussion, all those, please call the roll.
Trustee Ruben. Trustee Moser. Trustee Robbins.
yes,
Trustee Giselle McNally.
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
We'll now discuss the proposed tax levy. Mr. Howard.
Okay, so tonight we've prepared a short stack of slides on the 2023 proposed tax levy. Again, this is 94% of our total revenue for the township. That's made up of property taxes. We're in a very similar environment with high inflation in the last 2 years now. Last year it was 7% in terms of the CPI. This year 6.5%. Again, we'll get capped back to 5% if we choose to go that high. As the tax cap repeat tells, always the lesser a CPI or 5%. EAV after a reassessment year is looking to decrease about 8%. New growth estimated at about 38 million on a 4-year average. And again, right now we're not looking to go over 5, so there's no truth in taxation requirement of a publication or hearing.
We do like to publish anyway.
Yeah, and just to give you kind of a historical look.
James, EAV is assessed. Say it again.
Equalized assessed value.
That's right.
Yep. So again, you can see here just kind of a historical look at CPI and new growth. Again, those are the two pieces that can be captured under the cap. And again, you can see a nice uptick in terms of the new growth and also the CPI. So typically though, in normal years, CPI hovers around 2%. That's kind of the Fed mandate. They're raising those interest rates rapidly to drive CPI back down to 2%. It's hovering around 4% right now. So again, so it is working. We had much higher inflation in the last 2 years. It is coming down, but just coming down rather slowly. In terms of what we see in the bottom chart, you can see our tax rate and just kind of the relationship between the rate and EAV. Again, the extension over the EAV is the formula to produce the rate. You see we came down quite a bit in terms of our tax rate from 0.069 to 0.058, and that's the township rate. And that's mainly due to that large increase in EAV. So again, that was a reassessment year. That typically happens in those years. And then after that, the EAV comes down per objections on valuation. We're a very small part of the overall tax bill. You see 0.8%. Typically, the school districts will make up over 60% of the overall bill. But again, you can see some of the different local governments on the tax bill here. And again, we're the smallest piece. Well, I'm sorry, second smallest. The mosquito abatement always takes the cake in terms of being the smallest, and then us as a township. Here's kind of what we looked at last year. You can see some of the different increases based on how we levied. Again, remember, Cook County is always going to add that 3% for loss and costs. So that's what you see there. Even if you were to keep the rate or the extension flat from the prior year, the county's going to add on that 3%. And because that's under the CPI, you're going to be able to capture that. So you can kind of see what the increases were in the prior year. All in, again, about 3.5 million was extended to the township based on both town and GA funds. The total assessed value went up 27%. And again, that's on a reassessment year. So we were over 6 billion in EAV and new growth at 62.8 million. So again, a lot of new growth and a lot of value within the township. And then again, our rate has that inverse relationship with the EAV rising. So our rate came down 0.0568. Here's a couple of options that we put together for the board. Again, it's up to you to make a determination how we want to levy. This is option 1, where we have the total funds equal last year's estimated extensions. It would mean new money as we have the 3% added on by the county. So the total funds, about 104,000 in total. Town would see about 90,000, GA 13. We wouldn't be capped back at all because again, we're under that 5%. So the levy request would be about 3.46 million. And again, that's about what we would receive with just an increase due to rounding and the 3%, I should say. No publication or hearing required. And again, about 104,000 in new money for the township in total. Here's option 2. We did town fund at 2.5% over the estimated extension. and GA at last year's estimated extension. So we're pulling the town fund up here. Total funds about 181,000 in new money. The town would see 168. GA the same as option one at 13,000. Again, not going to get reduced here either, just based on all the new growth and we're again the 5% CPI cap. So the levy here would be about 3.53 million. And again, we're going to get the 3% added onto that to take us to 3.6. That would be about a 5.25% increase over the prior year's extension. Again, we don't have to publish or have a hearing as we're only about 2.18% above the prior year's extension. Last but not least, here's option 3. We took the town and GA to, yes.
Mr. Howard, Patel, that's the going down from to the 5%. Is that what that is? Yeah. So if we
Patel
were-
is just, yeah, is the property tax extension limitation law, which would be the cap. So in all of these scenarios, even with the 3% added on for loss and cost, we're still not going to get capped back by the county because we're not over that 5% basically. So it's always the CPI plus the new growth. Again, CPI 6.5, we're going to get capped down to 5, but that new growth is another component that we could capture if we wanted to. But in all of these scenarios, we're not going to get reduced because we're just not high enough in our levy. In this scenario, both up 1.5%. Again, we're going to get the 3% add-on from the county. This is about 157,000 in new money. The town would see 137, GA about 20,000. 3.5 million is the levy request, and then again, 3% on top of the 1.5. You know, you're going to see us at about 3.6. That's going to roll through without any reduction. And then again, we wouldn't have to publish as we'd be 1.5% above the prior year's extension, but we would capture about 4.54% again with the added loss and cost factor at 3% from the county. So those are all different scenarios to give you just some monetary options in terms of the levy. Again, we'd be happy to put this together, you know, no matter how the board pleases. But again, just to kind of show you what it would mean dollar-wise.
Okay, we'll now open the floor for questions. We're looking at option 1. So James, the concern was if we were to do a flat levy, we get the 3%, right, from the county in bonus funds. Would there be a concern going forward because increases beget increases? If, for instance, there was a property tax freeze, or just in the future if we needed to catch up? So did I? Yeah.
So the understanding on the levies is that the starting point is always the prior year's extension. So, you know, there would be a compounding effect of not capturing the total in terms of the levy or leaving it flat. But again, you know, that it also more depends on the need, I think, for us. It's more how the operational budget's going to look next year. How is inflation playing a toll or taking a toll? I should say, and especially as we talked a little bit about the pantry already, you know, that need continues to go up. Maybe there is a need to increase the levy there to afford us the ability to service the residents. So I think that's what I would pay more attention to as again, I think we're doing well with what we have, staying within our means. But yes, there is an impact because we always start at the prior year if you were to lessen the levy.
And we're gonna have access to a lot more of our reserves next year because we'll have access to the general assistance reserves. And we now have interest.
And we're getting 3% right off the bat. It just strikes me as disingenuous to ask for 1.5. I mean, we've got to do our share to bring things in. Oh, I think 3% is very generous. And the difference between 3% and 41% is about $50,000. I would lead off with our website saying that we didn't take advantage of, didn't increase the levy at all. We're getting 3%.
So that's functionally, right? That's, you know, from the, you know, from that standpoint. You know, Steph, I tend to think in the same way that you do, that, I would opt for option, fair way to say that. But, I'm leaning towards option 3. You know, I'm really glad that James brought up the, pantry, out of the GA fund. You know, for me, you know, seeing that is on a day-to-day basis, consistently something that our neighbors are needing. I think that we need to, you know, be thoughtful about, you know, not going too high, not doing it. You know, for me, you know, option 3 is the 3 bears option. That one for me, I think is the just right option. Was that this last year before, I think, right? That we did something that was, you know, minimal, but yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yes.
Spread amongst the entire township. Yeah.
So 1% is probably. Said that we're getting more use from general assistance with investments have done very well. And I just like some units of government that are flush and that are in good shape, like you have to take the lead for the taxpayer and say the buck stops here, we're in pretty good shape. We don't need 100%. Although, because the numbers are so small, I don't feel strongly that's fine.
I know.
I think that's middle of the road. So option 1 would be a amount of money. Option 2 would be the most. Option 3, middle of the road. I think what both sides are saying. On one hand, but on the other hand, you know, look at inflation, when we look at, I am worried about the future. I know that, yes, right. I'm just worried that could happen. And donations, contributions, things like that. So I think I'm leaning towards option 3, which is, you know, a good compromise between both sides. Yeah, what do you think?
I'm between, I tend to lean towards 1, just because we did fight for this access to the additional funds. I'd like to see how we do on it. I mean, it's not going to be but then going, you know, arguing against myself, it's not going to be a forever influx, right? The concept is to get us in line, use up those reserves the way we can. And then will we have issues getting back up to a reasonable extension? James, what's your thoughts looking at us from outside?
So we were very conservative last year. I think, you know, as I start to see the financial picture come into focus, I would say you definitely have a GA need in pantry now that Springfield's passed the bill to include it under GA. That is a levy I would look to maybe increase, but modestly. I mean, I think we can get a lot done with not as big an increase there. The town fund, I think you want to think to any capital projects. I mean, I think here, another play is to say, okay, we need to renovate certain areas of the township. Maybe we want to increase the levy, in the town fund this year and start to put money aside for some of the bigger ticket items that might be coming due. Again, CPI is going to come down. That's a guarantee. The Fed's has already done most of the work there. You're hovering right around 4% right now in terms of CPI. So by the end of the year, let's say we're somewhere between 3 and 4%. That's going to get us, new money even next year if needed, for particular projects. So I think, honestly, option 3 kind of, in my mind, might be the best play, just given the need on GA side. It gives the town fund, 137,000 that can be for ops, or maybe we start to put money aside for capital projects as well. That would be kind of my next step financially, is to actually create a capital fund that we can then build out with a replacement plan for the future. So that was the option I was kind of looking at, as option 3.
Trustee Moser. Yep. All right, Mr. Howard, why did you choose 1.5 versus 1% for option 3?
What was the question?
For option 3, you have the 1.5% over estimated extension over the extension. Why did you choose 1.5 instead of 1? Is it looking at like the aggregate numbers we would be getting?
I thought that this just gave us a kind of a nice balance of options, as one is flat. The second one is 2.5 for just the town fund, and now we're at 1.5, kind of giving us a middle ground option. Again, you're such a small piece of the overall bill. These aren't going to be a real burden to the taxpayers at all. And so I think that it does give a nice a boost in terms of revenue that we can use to meet the need. I think that's kind of where I saw this levy as kind of giving us that the monetary increases we need for both pantry and for the town fund, and to start that capital fund.
Okay.
Don't take that much of the tax bill. We're a small taxing entity. But when entities like ours that are in really good shape financially, when we sandbag a little bit and everybody else sandbags a little bit, it adds up. It's cumulative, and it has a dire effect on the taxpayer as a whole. I don't think we need to do it. I think 3% is generous. Again, I made my piece. I want to try to find a unanimous vote on this issue, but I think we have to consider sticking with 3% because we've got, we're in good shape. And like Gail said, like Trustee Eisenberg said, we're going to have a windfall when we can tap into that excess that's in the GA. And our investments have done very, very well. And I think it's a story. I think it's reportable if we hold the line. And if others start following our holding the line, I think it's something, it adds up. It's cumulative, James. That's my.
No, I think that's fair. I will say that on the other side of the coin, costs are going up. Any sort of project that you were going to try to put on now, especially if it was a construction project of some kind, on an aging building, you're going to have some pretty decent sized cost increases too. So I can see it both ways. But again, this is your decision. I'm trying to just to bring you the numbers to get an idea of the size and the increase in terms of dollars.
Larisha, we've obviously done some major work on the building. What is on the horizon? What are we going to have to do?
Okay, so we're going to go over budget on our building maintenance this year. Right now, I'm playing catch up from stuff that just has never been done. Every week, I am doing building maintenance. The installation was just done last Friday.
We didn't have installation in the ceiling.
There's no insulation. Everything that we're doing is to prevent us from spending money down the line. So our utility bills here are through the roof. The solar panel project is going to be finished. We still have $11,000 left in that.
Was this,
Are we in budget?
We are, but we're still, because we had to remove the asbestos. How many times do people come out and do inspections and stuff? What we're paying this
Another
year
flood.
is so expensive. We've had another flood in the basement. That's in my report. So Brachi Plumbing had to come out. I even looked in QuickBooks to see if something was misbudgeted, and it hasn't been. It's just been literally project after project after project. So I know that I don't get a vote here, but option 3 is best because I always have something to do here in the way of building maintenance, and we're not even done.
that's a wear and tear.
It's wear and tear because it's in the utility room downstairs and we don't use that room. So
I mean, if you saw the pipe, you would say that
Yeah.
it's gonna be covered.
So I'm not gonna replace all of the pipes in that room and we don't use it, so we just cut water supply off. But there's just a lot to be done, and I prefer to anticipate and know that I have the money in the budget rather than not, or having to put something off, because the building is so old, and I'm not saying it's falling apart, but there's just a lot of neglect, if that makes sense.
Deferred maintenance.
Yeah, deferred maintenance.
So we have a motion on the floor. I will say that we are not going to vote today. Right. So, but I would like to entertain the motion as to what we will put on the agenda. So the motion is for 1%. Is there a second? All those in favor of putting a 1% levy on next month's agenda for public for a public meeting, I'll say aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll put a 1% levy up for discussion. Thank you very much. Because of inflation, but right, exactly. It is. I listened to the same story.
We're spending about $1,200 a week just on produce. And when we had the talk a year and a half ago about getting dairy is so expensive in this community. I mean, it's expensive everywhere, but the grocery stores here are more expensive. We do outsource and go to Costco and stuff, but to try to fight usage versus our storage as well is rough, and that's why we're already at over the budget in GA for the food pantry.
Yes, we certainly have added additional offerings. That's going to be part of it. I think people are very happy with that. And we do stand out as for food pantries for being able to offer a well-balanced diet. Absolutely. So, and everyone can take a look at the soy Baldudo. Doing pretty well here. Are there any comments on the investment performance report?
Putting it in monthly, even if they don't come, because they come like quarterly.
Wonderful. Any additional questions for James before I let him go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Good night, everybody.
Have a good day.
You too.
Now in line for public comment. Are there any public comments? Seeing none. Committee application, Amy Barrow for the Disability Committee. Another wonderful applicant. Is there any discussion? Absolutely. Oh, now she's at the bookstall. Any other discussion? And she was actually at the Family Service Center lunch and we chatted, and she's very excited to get to work as soon as she can. So and I'll entertain a motion to approve the application of Amy Barrow. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, it is unanimous. We are very lucky to have very qualified and giving people in our community. I lost my agenda. Right? There it is. All right, our committee liaison reports. We will start with mental health. Ruben.
I think that I appreciate the effort that she's taking to try to improve the process. One of the questions that he's been asking all the agencies, what would you do to improve the application? We've gotten some really good feedback, including, there's different conclusion as to how to support service. I think we're not actually some of the outreach, capturing the individual, well, and this is kind of full service hours, but not necessarily education. So, hopefully, some good ones, can really come up with a better application for next year. But
Thank you. Life stages funding, trustee Moser.
Within that context, probably
That's yeah. Absolutely.
When I have problems with that, with the idea that covering the entire township and the township doesn't count. With something that so worried, but still have to use it. First concept that every fund has to be all members of the community. One fund. Yeah. Funding on the contrary or who revenues. If you start cutting back on the performance, more curious about the issue.
Certainly, during our discussions and after we get the recommendations, and would like to know, certainly having a basis for any reductions or major increases is obviously going to be imperative. So at least an understanding of what the recommendation was for. Disability support funding, Elliot.
We had two of our and I echo some of the same things brought up by Danielle and Stefan. What is it for the service? How do you measure the service? Another issue that we're wrestling with is measuring outcomes. How do you measure outcomes? And how important is it to measure outcomes and to make sure that you people are giving you feedback? And then another issue that's our committee, other agencies, is the issue of how do you define residence? There'll be a hot issue. We've got some people, for example, that are in programs and their parents have died. So they lived in, when they last resided here, they resided in the township. But parents are gone. And so we're wrestling with residency, and that's going to be a very big issue. I think I alerted the board last time that Glencoe submitted, their initial submission was only 2 people, and they were asking for, I don't know, 60, 70,000, over 30,000 a person. We said, that can't be right. You were at 13 or 14, go back and give us the information. They went back, and I'm happy to say they supplemented their application. We now might have 5 to 6 or 7. So we're going to, it's interesting. We've got some older people that are like in SOAs or they're in programs. Their parents who were taxpayers or residents in the township have either moved or have passed. When they last lived in their home, they were in the township, even though they might be still outside the township. It's very interesting. I'm going to have to figure out how we define residency.
It's a very good question.
Exactly. Very interesting. Yes. And are we inclined to want to narrow the definition, or are we inclined to want to expand it? And can we enforce it uniformly from agency to agency and from committee to committee? So, but I like the job Stephen's doing. I echo what Danielle said. He's doing a great job. It's very interesting how he can improve and getting feedback from the agencies. They're thrilled to get feedback. A lot of them are unprepared for that question. They're saying, let us get back to you. And so I think he's going about this the right way. It's really good process. And I think he's looking at next step.
Wonderful. Kate, strategic planning.
So at our last board meeting, I had told you that Melanie was working on the draft of the survey that we were going to be giving out to the agency partners that we were anticipating doing at the check breakfast. We heard from our friends at Northfield Township that they were just about to drop their brand new bright and shiny strategic plan. And so Melanie and I decided to hold off until we saw what they had done so that we could, see if there were any, bright ideas that they had. Northfield has just gone through this process. It took 17 months. They worked with Northern Illinois University Center for Governmental Studies. They did a really bang up job. It's absolutely gorgeous what they came up with. And so Melanie and I are digging into this. And we wanted to, we know that it's taking longer than anticipated, but we would rather measure twice, cut once. And so that's the process that we're in now, is kind of going through this. She's really formulating what they did survey. And so that's where we are.
Thank you. And just because Kate had mentioned it, and I had mentioned it a year or two ago, we did look into also engaging Northern Illinois. I was not comfortable with the cost for our small budget. It was about $35,000. And yeah, I figure we have all of these other agencies and entities who have undergone the process. And if you were to take them all and aggregate them, you should be able to understand where our township is going. Kind of a study of the studies, or a meta-analysis, if you would. Northfield.
Northfield Township.
No. Yeah. Bigger. Yep. And they also have them.
Do you remember but a fair bit of us is in the lake?
Yeah. We've got mermaids.
Oh,
yeah. Yep. Bigger. Yep. And I participated in their program. A lot of the feedback was focused on social services, which is what we do. Were you getting the same? From being there, that's what the stakeholder meetings were about. And they do have a road district, so that was exactly.
They were very proud.
They must, yeah, absolutely.
They're adding.
We definitely hope them.
Well, and I know I'm jumping
Oh,
the gun
please.
here, but it sounds like Brian,
Mhm.
you know, kind of getting the staff reports, that Brian is helping them with some stuff too.
Exactly. And he did ask what if we should just not charge them in order to pay them back. And that was what we decided to do. So, yep. So we're split the chickens. Yep. These are important things. So that does bring us to the acknowledgement of the staff reports. Is there anything else we want to take out of the reports for discussion?
Scholarship. After the pandemic, and we had some down years, we went away with it. And I think the jury program has a budget of about $59,000. We did have a big month, a couple months ago, we had 7 new cases, and case one, we had 2 new cases last month. And I think the scholarship is a big part of what we do. It makes sense, it motivates the kids. It gives a kid a chance to speak at our town hall meeting, and to read his or her winning essay. I think it's money well spent, and I think that now that we're back up and running, we don't slow down. I think that I think it's Brian's decision, but he's asking for our guidance. I would be in favor of re-implementing it. I think it's like,
What are the requirements around applying for scholarships?
You have to be a peer juror, and then you write an essay, an
you have to be in
academic
your
record.
senior year, and you have to write an essay, and you have to have good attendance. And typically, they don't, not everybody applies. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 or 5. We had as many as 6 or 7. There have been a few years where Brian had split the award because 2 are equally qualified. One year we had to have 3.
We did.
And they all read it. Yeah, it's a wonderful feature for our annual company. We have the winning essays read, and most people come up and get it. I think he's asking for our input. I thought I saw that.
Yeah. No, you did. Are there any requirements around where somebody's intending on going to school?
There have not been.
That the only reason I asked is because I had trouble pushing the babysitters to try and apply for Toys scholarship because they're like, I'm not going in state, I can't do it. So it's just it was a consideration.
They have to have extended attendance.
And you are correct, we did budget for it. So
I personally be in favor of it and keeping it at the same level. I think it's a great way to incentivize especially young people. I feel like we've got the elementary school and the Cub Scouts, and then we've got kind of grown-ups like us. But then I worry sometimes that we kind of leave out or forget sometimes the kids in the middle. And I think this would be a great way to reach your hands out there. And I think it's something that's already in our budget. And so I would be in favor of doing that. I also in Brian's report, it sounded like we might have enough volunteers at this point for the November 20th distribution of holiday meals. Are we set on that, or do we need to? Do you need me? Is what I'm asking. Or do we think we're okay there? The beginning of the second paragraph of Brian's response.
Jean was bringing in some people, Brian was bringing in some people. Nobody has said how many hours everybody was working. I think it's kind of like some kind of rotating thing.
Okay.
We're gonna have a staff meeting tomorrow morning, so I'll get back to you.
Cool. Yeah, because it seems like last year, there were more than enough people, which is spectacular. And I also kind of, I know I'm going backwards. Larisha, from your report, to the degree that it sounds like you've got the landmark committee, in Winnetka, if you would like any of us to kind of be a show of support, that's an easy thing to go and sit at. So if you want us there, let us know just when it's going to be.
Okay.
It's just a 7 o'clock meeting, and you sit there and you look official.
Yeah,
Do you know when-
Brenda is trying to get us on in the slate for this month to not push it out to next month. Because we've been having really good weather right now, so I'm like, can we get it done? Can we get it done? That's pretty much the last piece for the solar panels,
Okay.
really, is getting past this. So I'll loop you
Yeah.
into my
Because I
email with
think
her.
that the landmark committee meets on the first Monday of the month at 7 o'clock at Village Hall, but I could. I think that, also in Melanie's report, I don't know if anybody knows, but it said that we're doing tabling days in the libraries. I was wondering, is this just for general awareness, or do we have anything that we're promoting in particular?
General awareness.
Okay.
I mean, as we have programs, we'll, obviously put up a flyer or something like that, but yes, this is simply, we had, when Julie was here, been doing a lot more, sidewalk sales, festivals. And the question was, what was our return on investment on some of those? So the question is, will libraries be a better return? Right? That's where, people hang out. Why? So not saying that we won't do sidewalk sales, but, froze poor Julie during when at Winterfest last year, and I'm not sure. Right.
I think we should not.
Right.
Because people walk right past us.
They walk right
because
yeah.
we're not selling anything. It just gave me like a good scope of what it looks like when we do certain events. The libraries might be better, so she's just gonna be tabling for that.
Yeah, even when we were doing the partnering with Treasurer's Office and trying to give away money, right? People weren't stopping. So
Arts of Life.
Maybe that's actually not a bad idea. Because Wilmette had their first art fair. I did think about that's an interesting concept of having maybe some of our agencies share a table. I like that. We'll discuss. I think they're going to redo it again. It looks like it was a good success. That's a reminder that the wellness fair was great. I think we were a little lower in participation than last year, but that was just because it was too gorgeous out. We had to make a difference day. That was not our fault. We did plan around them, and then they moved their event. But that was a anomaly. They promise that they will stay with their normal third Saturday going forward. But yes, but we, I was able to do both, so some other people were too. Drove through, dropped off my computers to Binary Heart. They laughed at me at how old they were, and then I continued. So, yes, they've gotten better now. And then I will, of course, also be remiss if I didn't mention I also participated in League of Women Voters in state of the township during the last month, and I almost forgot to say. But obviously, all the various entities spoke. We all were very complimentary of Lucy, our shared sustainability coordinator. So I think that was another great outcome of the cooperation. We'll see what happens going forward. Yes. Anything else to bring up in there? Hopefully you all read your courier and enjoyed it. Tell your friends about Medicare Part D session. For those who are interested. And we will be encouraging people to get LIHEAP, help with their heating expenses. And it is, as you see in Jean's report, it's like on various tiers. We work with CETA and the Senior Center on that. So yes. Oh, and to emphasize the community support grants she mentioned, we did have to do some substantial work on that application, but it is now fully online. We are discouraging people from using paper. This way, it all goes into a database. We don't have to re-enter addresses year over year. Yeah, so the idea is to have less work on the back end. and we will be including with the community support grant checks this year information about ABLE, the program. We did an outreach event with the treasurer's office for tax-free benefits for those with developmental disabilities. So it's not that you can't do it by paper. We are discouraging it. Yes. And it seems that most people will be able to do it. The issue was the application in the past was simply an upload of the paper application made into a form. It was a mess. I don't know, if none of the participants had said, hey, by the way, your form is a horrible mess, but it was a mess. So it took a lot of effort, but I think it's in a much better shape now. We tested it out, work. So that will hopefully be very useful, and made sure that we had all the changes that this board has voted upon to the program, so ensuring mental health parity. It was reflected on the application. All right. Cool. Great. Other than that, we done? Oh, continuing business. Okay. So you have received a copy. Oh, sorry. We'll start with audit follow-up. Kate.
How the move to QuickBooks has gone and the changes on the
So Tim moved to Florida. I am printing the checks and kind of familiarizing myself with our chart of accounts. So that's going a little bit better now. He did try me before he left, but obviously there were some hiccups. But he's still working remotely. He does all of our reconciliations. He basically still does the same functions, just from a different state. I just take over the physical aspects of it.
And yes, Angel Fund is now included. Yeah.
And then Jen, are you still there with us?
We did actually have a meeting.
Okay.
Jan, Len, myself, Alicia.
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes. So we do think we have come to a understanding about how we can fund the supplements going forward. We just need the information about how much Len's paying in supplements. Is that right, Jan?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, as far as I know, unless there's something that everybody overlooked, it is accounted for. His payment is accounted for in my budget. So I with appeals, I think we had our meeting directly before we opened for appeals or shortly after we started, and everything goes on the back burner for a while. So I can give you the figures tomorrow if you like.
It's asking for him to check stubs for his Social Security, and James has not received that yet. That's what the holdup is on the accounting end.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear all of that.
So just take a look at what James needs to make sure that everything is set up properly. But that should all be in the emails.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And just for clarity for the board's sake, although an EIN had been created for the assessor's office, they were never members of the local government plan.
Right.
So in practicality, nothing changed.
Right.
It was established to do so. It never occurred, which is
because we only did it if it was going to be necessary, and if we could get around it and not have to do that, fine. And so that's what we were able to work out. And so we haven't canceled it or closed it or whatever you do, but it's, it has no teeth.
Well, I would certainly encourage you to do so, Jan, just because your social is attached to it. So.
Oh, you're right. It is my social, isn't it? You're right.
All right.
I forgot.
Okay. Any other discussion on the audit? Okay. Personnel policy manual. So I will apologize that I was gonna redline myself to his redline, to his clean version, and I have not had a chance to do so.
I didn't put it back. I want multiple. I see as like a contrast, she can't follow.
Here's the deal. If you guys should have seen my compare doc between the two PDFs. Every change is going to be covered on that, every change. So like, small, issues in font or, is going to be covered. Right. It does not appear that there were major changes other than, so.
What's the difference between yellow and blue? I mean,
You have
the
to-
short
yeah.
version is, I'm not comfortable voting on this tonight because.
Oh, we're not going to vote on it.
Okay.
So, but what I did want to do is, for those who have had a chance to go through and have major concerns that can be implemented into my red line. So I'm going to go off of the Word version that Jim sent. The compare document was a comparison between the 2007, and this. But you should not feel that anything is written in stone other than that is legally required. So that said, the major difference that I intend to change is we had discussed going to a PTO model from the current model, which, as you can see, we've had vacation, sick leave, personal leave. It is, first of all, the state has gone to a PTO for any reason model. You can keep it the way this is if we wanted to. But really, it's none of my business what an employee does with their time off. If they have the time off and they've asked for, the time was approved, we should not care if it's for a hospital visit or right? It's none of our business. Yeah.
I just want to say one thing. That the township is incredibly blessed. Yeah, Chicago's best as our supervisor. So on matters like this, I mean, it's just a gift that you're in charge. I have to look at it and I have no intention of looking at it.
Right. So, and I will say there was an interesting conversation because we were doing this at the same time that there was discussion as to whether the municipal league was trying to exempt townships and other municipalities from the new paid leave for any reason statute. And so all the other supervisors were like, this will just get exempted. And I'm just like, no, it won't. And fun fact, it did not get exempted. They're all like struggling. So it goes into effect January 1. Everybody be ready. So, yes. Right. And that's how we have been. Opposite, yeah. 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 Right. So it would still be an accrued process, but we wouldn't differentiate. We would still have a rollover. The intent is for it to not be less generous on the rollover number. But you normally wouldn't be able to roll over any sick leave because the point is you don't want people to not use sick leave. They're supposed to use it when they're sick. And right. So oh yeah. Exactly. Right. 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 That, yeah, we would not be less generous than the current policy. It would just be that we wouldn't be dividing it up between those three buckets. exactly.
Well, if all your days going to spend and then what happens?
You can take unpaid. Right. And we have had people who have used more than their allotment and needed to take an unpaid leave or some sort of, we've had to do accommodations of disabilities to allow for remote work. For instance, if someone can't drive because of surgery, right? So that's still an option. It's just about paid leave, not, yeah. So, oh, I very much do. I hate those policies. One is that people don't take the time. Those who do take the time end up getting fired. And it's not protected conduct. So you can be. And then 3 is that there's no paid, you don't get paid out on it at the end of your term if you terminate. So let's say you never took a vacation, you don't get it at the end. Yeah. So I hate, yeah. Yeah, but it looks like it. People think it sounds good. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like places like Kirkland and Ellis have unlimited PTO. You think they bill 3,000 hours a year? No. So, I don't. Yeah, but that's gonna be the biggest change. Will be the PTO policy, which will also now cover part-time individuals, and that's the major part that's huge for this new law. Yeah.
From the HR standpoint, it's just what's my brain.
Yeah.
Either take half the day or take the whole day.
Right.
That's how I want it to be. Not,
Exactly.
I need 30 minutes, I need 45. Because to try to calculate it in somebody's salary, I found out is very rough. And I'm good at math, but I've gotten really good at math over the past year. So
Yeah.
some positive changes. And I mean, it's been a long time since we've changed this policy manual. So
Get excited. The plan will be to get a final review at the December meeting so that it can be implemented, assuming we all come to an agreement to go into effect January 1. No.
I will be here tomorrow morning at 9.
Salary is down. Yeah. So that is an interesting point. We only have one hourly employee, right? And that is Brian, because he went to that part-time role. Everybody else is exempt salary. So they are supposed to be here during office hours and sometimes beyond. When I hired Melanie and Steve, the concept was regular 40 hours and obviously whatever we need them for after. But on those weeks that, for instance, Steve has pre-scheduled committee meetings, right? We have been having him come in at, right? So only during the agency period. So he still has regular hours during the work day. They're just shifted up. Right, and he can't go home, he's too far away, so we shipped his hours up. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Thank you. All right. But do, any other issues, obviously send to me directly. Do not send amongst the board because we could have issues with Open Meetings Act. Yes. Yeah. Right. So before the next meeting, the subcommittees will meet. It exists. But yes, yes,
Gotta get group funding.
yes, you haven't missed anything, no worries. This is a lot of paper, okay. But yes, thankfully, it's a long process. Absolutely. Any additional new business? Yeah,
Yes,
we decided
we
to-
are. So we are having a holiday party. Everybody agreed on December 22nd. And we agreed, everybody, well, majority party agreed to an evening party so that everybody can come.
Oh, that's cute.
So, we can brainstorm where we can go. If we want to stay in the community, we can. I love Moretti's in Morton Grove. Don't know if anybody else has had it. And that's a really good space for large groups of people. Right, yes, see, stepping up. But, the idea is to kind of get away from Little Honeycomb and do something different. So everybody can come because it's outside of work hours.
Okay.
So we can talk about that next month. It's a Friday.
That's spouses too.
I'm guessing if you want to bring your spouse, you can.
Figure out our budget.
Right, right.
Mm,
Okay.
can we bring that?
Yes, grab bag, is going to be included. I have a list of names of everybody who said that they wanted to come on my desk. Our next board meeting is on December 12th, so we can make a decision then.
Seven gets to grab my bag because I already have,
Okay.
so it's reserved.
All right, any additional new business? Wonderful. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.